For the vast majority of people that go on the carnivore diet, what typically tends to happen is that your energy levels skyrocket. However, there is a small subset of the population who find that when they go on the carnivore diet, their energy levels actually drop. So in today's video, we're going to look at the 5 most common reasons for this. The first reason, which is the most common reason, is that you're not eating enough fat. When you eat super lean and don't get enough fat, it means that the vast majority of our energy comes from protein. Now, protein itself is very low in energy, and the human body isn't very good at converting protein into a fuel source. So on carnivore, we need a high fat intake to ensure that we feel our best. A good starting point is a 1-to-1 ratio, 1 gram of protein to 1 gram of fat. But please remember, in 100 grams of muscle meat, there's 20 grams of protein roughly, and 100 grams of fat, there's 100 grams of fat. So in order to meet this 1-to-1 ratio, you want 100 grams of fat and 500 grams of leaner muscle meat. So if you're not feeling amazing and you're below this 1-to-1 ratio, the first thing you're going to want to do is up the amount of fat you're consuming. The next mistake that people make is that they're under eating or they've just gotten too lean. The thing about meat is that it is incredibly satiating. And for a lot of people, when they start the carnivore diet, they eat meat till they're full and they think that they're eating a lot because they're always full. However, in reality, they're not actually consuming that much energy. I see this happen in particular a lot with women who are just used to having smaller portions of meals. So how do you know if you're eating enough? Well, are you getting at least 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body weight? Meaning if you're a 200-pound individual, you want at least 200 grams of protein. If you're a 150-pound individual, you want at least 150 grams of protein. If you aren't consuming at least this much meat with a sufficient amount of fat like we talked about, there's a good chance you're under eating, and that right there could be the reason why you don't have superhuman-like energy. What tends to happen to some people is that they'll go on carnivore and they'll get very lean very quickly. Now, when you're an overweight individual, you can kind of get away with undereating because your body just taps into its own body fat. But as you get leaner and leaner and your body has less fat to draw from, is that your body, in order to conserve energy, will create less of it and therefore you won't feel as good. Now, the reason it does this is, well, so it doesn't die. Our bodies have no idea that we're no longer in caveman times and that there's a supermarket up the road. It just thinks, well, we're not eating a lot, there must be food scarcities, let's produce less energy so we don't run out of it and die. So if you are someone who's been on carnivore and you've lost a lot of weight and all of a sudden you're not feeling great, you need to up the amount you're eating. Another reason for this is that you're not eating enough salt. Insulin is a hormone that spikes when your blood sugar spikes to bring your blood sugar back down. Now on a carnivore diet, because we're not eating carbohydrates, our insulin levels aren't as high because, well, we're not consuming carbohydrates and therefore our blood sugar is not spiking very high. Insulin helps the kidneys to retain sodium. So because we now have less insulin, our kidneys are going to retain less of the sodium we're consuming. So the insulin levels drop and the amount of sodium we hold on to drops. Over time, our bodies start to regulate and they adapt to these lower insulin levels and we no longer have this issue. However, when you first start the carnivore diet, to make up for the fact that you're no longer retaining as much of the sodium, you need to increase the amount you're consuming. In some cases, this may seem like an extreme amount. I remember when I first started the carnivore diet and I was putting so much salt on my meat that people were genuinely concerned about how much I was having. The general rule for this is to salt to taste. Even if it may seem like you're putting an excessive amount of salt on your meat, if it tastes good, it's your body's way of saying, we like this, we want more of it. Like I said though, what you'll find is that over time, less and less salt starts tasting good to you. If I put anywhere near the amount of salt I put on my meat when I first started carnivore on a steak now, it would taste terrible to me. But at the time, that's what my body wanted and therefore it tasted good to me. Another reason you're not feeling amazing on carnivore is because you've just started. When we switch from a regular standard American diet to a carnivore diet, we're switching our primary fuel source from carbohydrates to fats. And many people experience what is known as the keto flu, which is basically flu-like symptoms whilst your body is transitioning from carbohydrates to fats. Now, whilst the keto flu only lasts for a couple of days, some people find that it may actually take them up to a month to fully adapt to this new fuel source. For some people, it can take a little bit longer to become what is known as fat adapted. Over time, your body becomes more efficient at oxidizing, well, burning fat. I personally noticed this. For a long time when I first started carnivore, I quite literally felt better and better by the day. So if you've only been on carnivore for say less than a month and you're still not feeling amazing, try upping the salt, try upping the fat, maybe you need to eat a bit more, but it could also be that you're just getting adapted to it. The final thing you might be doing is eating less nutrient-dense cuts of meat. The more nutrients you consume, the better you're going to feel. And if you are eating grain fed monogastric animals, say like chicken or pork, these things just aren't going to contain the same amount of nutrients as, say, grass fed beef. Now, obviously, consuming these things is still a lot better for you than plants. But if you're not having some wild salmon or a significant amount of ruminant meat, you may not be feeling as good as you could. So, in summary, if you're not feeling amazing, increase the amount of fat you're eating, eat more food, add more salt, give it time if you're just starting, and then try to eat as much ruminant meat as you possibly can. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. See you next time.